broadcasting from the Unshackled Studios in Melbourne. This is WilmsFront, brought to you by theunshackled.net. Now here's Tim Wilms.
Hello everyone, I'm back and welcome to tonight's show. It is Sunday the 29th of December 2019. It is just after 8 p.m. here in Melbourne. We are currently live on the Tim Wilms YouTube channel and also live on the Tim Wilms D-Live channel. I've also put in the YouTube chat the link to Entropy, which is the YouTube enhanced software, so you can go over there and send us a super chat to support the Unshackled and the production of this show. You can ask me a question because obviously a lot has happened in the past week since I've been off air and Christmas happened. And I can also do a poll if I feel like it. But you have to remember that, since it's the first show back after a break, it's just going to be me tonight summing up what has happened over the festive season, because after a day's break from the news, it is just all piled up, and so there's a lot to get through tonight. Hope, since I haven't been on air for a while and have been enjoying the Christmas festivities, I am not rusty. Hope it doesn't take me too long to get back into the groove. I hope that all of you here in the chat, both on YouTube and D-Live, you had a Merry Christmas with family, friends, and loved ones. Hope you took one day to turn off the politics and the problems of the world, to just enjoy what we have around us. Of course, after Christmas, the next big countdown is the end of the Gregorian calendar year, which is the calendar that we have used in the Anglo-Saxon nations for the past over 100 years. There's all these things such as Chinese New Year, the Jewish New Year, but the calendar that we use is the Gregorian calendar. And since it's going to be the end of 2019, it also means it's going to be the end of a decade. The 21st century's roaring 20s will be ushered in, and there'll be plenty of roaring, given the current state of geopolitics, economic dislocation, and political discourse. I was just watching on my way into the studio Nick Fuentes' final stream for the year of his America First program. He's doing a special highlights 10-hour stream on D-Live, but that's the final America First stream. He went through the Bank of America's top 10 predictions of what's going to happen in the next decade. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but yeah, there is certainly going to be tougher times ahead. We have certainly come far in this century in terms of technology, information, and connectivity, but there are certainly going to be massive societal, economic, and social problems in this century's 20s. Now, as you know, I'm coming to you live from Melbourne, where, or as you know, during Melbourne summer, is that's when it's youth gang crime season, and there's been plenty of that, sadly, over the past week. So I'm just going to begin to go through that. I'll share the Entropy link in again. I think the best way for me to manage these solo streams is the same way that Maddie does, which he just goes through a whole bunch of news articles and offers his analysis on it. I have got some doozies because there is plenty of crap that's being spewed out. Port Film Co-op is complaining about the Entropy link. It says there's 3 people there, so some people have found a way to get there. I'm not sure. I've never had problems on getting on XYZ Live or Maddie's stream on Entropy, so I don't know what everyone's complaining about, really. All right, let's get to it, because yes, this is the third Melbourne summer of youth gang crime, and yes, I'm calling it youth gang crime because we are on YouTube, and I think, well, especially there is when somebody describes the appearance of the attackers, they doubted, but we'll go through just see what the what the articles say. I've got a special window here that I set up tonight so that I can. You can see me going through the articles. There we go. This was from December 19th, just a week before Christmas. Police pepper spray dozens of youths sprawling on a Bayside bus. So this was down in Chelsea, which is near Frankston, just a few train stops away from Frankston. This was 9:30 p.m. on Wednesday night. So going by the date, that was on December 18th, because Wednesday was Christmas Day. There's some footage there. Youths had been moved on from the beach by officers who'd been conducting a weapons search operation. Most agreed to leave the area on a bus. Police moved them on. Fortunately, a fight broke out. Police used capsicum spray to break up the fight and disperse the roughly 30 youths who boarded the bus. Some were then taken to Chelsea Police Station so they could be provided to minimise the effects of the capsicum spray. Ambulance attending video shows the youths being hosed down with water by the police. I wish we could use that water to put out some of the fires. Yes. Then about 20 youths boarded trains to leave the area. No one was injured in the incident. That's an 18-year-old man was arrested but later released. How many times do you see that? That they were arrested but later released. The hot weather brings out some bad behaviour, this police constable O'Grady said. This month, police will launch Operation Summer Safe, which aims to discourage bad behaviour along Port Phillip Bay beaches over the summer period with increased police presence. Reminds me of last summer. Deputy Commissioner Shane Patton said the response to Wednesday showed that police were prepared for unruly behaviour. I hope you are. Work the way we should have. Assured local businesses that will continue to deal with the threat and advised them taking the law into their own hands. They interviewed a Chelsea resident. This is from The Age. Happens every hot day. It'll probably happen again tomorrow. I'm going to stay indoors hot days. Well, that's where the air conditioning is, provided there's no blackouts like the Victorian Energy Minister Lily Ambrosa said there might be. In the afternoon, when people have been drinking all day on the beach, towards the end of the day, that's when trouble happens. Resident didn't want to be named. You can see my... I exited the Telegram desktop app, but then it popped up again, so I've quit it completely now, so there should no more be other interruptions there. Yeah, so where was I? Resident who did want to be named said he believes most of the users with aims came from the outer southeastern suburbs. So that's places like Dandenong, Narre Warren, Noble Park, what are they? Endeavour Hills. They come to Chelsea Beach because it's the closest beach to them, with amenities open at night. Police last year had to step up their patrols following a spate of violent incidents at Chelsea Beach where a man was glassed in the face. Other bathers had their possessions stolen. Yep, I certainly remember that. Of course, everyone's got the memory of goldfish this year, so they don't forget what happened last summer. Yes, we reassure the community that a very small number of people who chose to do the wrong thing. So as you can see, I'll check in the chat. It was all that article was cutting edge reporting. Wouldn't you agree? You got an exact detailed description of what happened that night. Yes, I was able to shrink myself. That's one of the... Because, like I said to you before, you've all got memories of goldfishes as well. Like, you can't remember when I'm live or playing a pre-recorded segment. You can see me read the articles that I'm screen sharing. That's something we need to cure, I think, in the Roaring Twenties, goldfish memory. All right, now going on to the next article. Now, this article is going to be slightly more specific than the previous one. So here we go here. South Sudanese leader says there is a serious gang culture in Melbourne after migrant teenager was stabbed to death despite police and Premier Jan Landry's repeatedly denying it. So this talks about journalist Ajak Deng Chinkov said Melbourne had a problematic gang culture. This is a Daily Mail article, so they have incredibly long headlines and they have the main takeaways here. So Aga Akalu, 17, died during a fight at St Albans around 1:30 a.m. on Sunday. This was published on 24th of December. So this was a Tuesday, so it would have occurred on the 22nd on the Sunday. So South Sudanese leader, yeah. So this is the journalist that they're referring to, Ajak Deng Chenkov, who has known Mr. Liu since birth. He hoped the community would take Melbourne youth gang violence seriously in the aftermath. Well, amen, brother. We certainly need to. He added that Mr. Liu's mother attempted to relocate him to another country to escape the violence. What does that say? For months, the mother has been trying to move him to Africa to stay away from the youths. He'd been threatening his life, but nothing worked because of the system. I'm not sure what system, probably maybe the law and order system that we have here in Victoria. That we have a lot of youth offenders who get bail, who get only a few months in or juvenile detention centre, even if they are over 18. I hope we can all agree that there is a serious gang culture now in the community. Yes, I completely agree. Still shocked, but I'm getting sick or tired of seeing such lives being lost because of violence and the rest are being lost by suicide. Yes, I'm sick of it too. So, Chenkur, the former executive of SBS's Dinko radio station, said Sydney Police Plutonium Suspenders should be vigilant because most of the young people infiltrated by organised crimes. Victoria Police and the State Supreme have repeatedly refused to say it's an African gang problem in Melbourne, news.com.au reports. Victorian policemen were chased and allegedly attacked by a group wielding sticks, fence posts and knives. The teenager had been living in Adelaide and was in Melbourne to surprise his mother for Christmas. His family rallied together on Monday to support his shattered mother, Martha, who was rushed to hospital collapsing. Well, she would. He was a very good boy. He was not part of a gang. I was shocked. I didn't know he would die like this. Previously had brushes with the law, but had not been in trouble since joining local sport and church groups. That's obviously a good step to take to avoid trouble. Join local sport or church group. Claimed Aga was a victim of an ambush and become target of other South Sudanese youths. Because yes, they have rival gangs, these youths. There's different youth gangs. Yes, this is live, just saying. This is live, you idiots. I am live. I'm reading this live. I know you're just saying this to mess with me. So there's Aga who died. No charges have been laid as of Monday night, which, how many times have we heard that before? Launched a public appeal into the deadly fight involving 30 African males. That's pretty bold statement there. It was understood the two groups had arranged to meet late on Saturday night in relation to a dispute regarding a vehicle. So it wasn't even about a person, it was about property. Meeting at a train station, they went to a home. Members of one group, including the victim, were chased back to the train station with violent altercation rating stinks. Fence posts and knives broke out. Aga was injured in the brawl and was able to be revived after collapsing. Males in the second group left in 3 vehicles from the scene, including the silver Holden, which is yet to be found. A friend who was with him on the night claimed he died, claimed the car stolen at a soccer match earlier in the day belonged to Aga. Anyone information or may have CCTV footage, dash cam, so you don't have access to the CCTV footage, is that what you're saying? A 17-year-old boy can't be named for legal reason, stabbed Mr. Chol when he... Oh, this is another incident I was referring to, yes, because I'm working on a massive, what would you call it? Not an article or essay, but basically a catalogue of all of these youth gang incidents over the past year, because, well, it's only coming to prominence again this summer, but it'd be occurring in winter too. There was a doozy of an incident where some youths in Noble Park attempted to carjack a vehicle that turned out to be an unmarked police car. That was pretty dumb. All right, let's go to the next one here. So yes, Melbourne-based African families send children overseas to learn discipline. Again, what does that say about us? The fact that we have no discipline here. And you sort of so this is the state that we're in. Even the parents of these youths, they're despairing at the Australian legal system themselves, and so they're actually sending them. They believe that there's more discipline and justice back where a lot of them came from refugees, which is that's the incredible situation that we're in. The children, most of whom were born in Australia, are sent to live with elders and attend boarding school, and last resort approach to parents struggling to keep youngsters safe from street violence. Do military schools actually exist anymore? Remember back in the olden days that they used to threaten to send their children to military schools. Here's Akol Marley, chairwoman of South Sudanese Community Association of Victoria, said locals were fed up with the actions of certain groups of young people in the community. The families are feeling powerless and they have no level of control. Yes, I agree. And at the same time, a lot of people are struggling, mothers are struggling, they're resorting to taking their kids to boarding school and to be cared for by their grandparents overseas. So we all know that the current state of law and order in Victoria and the criminal justice system that we have, this is what the left progressives wanted, because of course they believe that youths who come from a different ethnic background from the ordinary or the traditional Australian, I should say, that they apparently take in cultural differences. Well, like, you're seeing it from the actual parents of these youths, who some of them are victims, some of these are perpetrators. So you are part of the problem. The people who implement this system of justice that we have in Victoria. If you want to basically ensure that well, it's not even, this is not even about multiculturalism or anything like that. It is just about law and order. When people commit violent gang offences, they need to be punished for that. It's a pretty simple formula: crime and punishment. But we seem to have forgotten that here. And then probably the most horrific incident over the Christmas break. This is from news.com.au. Man's life support to be turned off after Christmas bashing. A Victorian man's life support is expected to be turned off after he was attacked by a gang of youths. Now his family have revealed what's happened. 50-year-old grandfather was brain dead, sparked by a neighbourhood dispute over fireworks. There was fireworks in the neighbourhood. Their family says they were not their fireworks, but Anthony Clark, 50, was beaten senseless by this gang of youths wielding baseball bats on Christmas Day outside his Murrabak home, which is in the far east of Melbourne, near Ringwalk. So his life support is to be turned off today. 15 guys rocked up here and he didn't have a chance. They knocked my mum right out in the driveway straight away. They had bats, they smashed my car, and then they just threw my mum around like a rag doll. Now they're yelling because the firework went off, their dog was barking. That's a totally proportionate response if your dog's barking at fireworks to turn up 15 of you with baseball bats. 4 of them went my dad at once and one of them was stomping him. Miss Clark said the loss of the stepfather was particularly difficult for her daughter. My daughter's lost everything now. She just wants her puppy to come home. My mum's worried. She's just lying there. Victim's brother says the grandfather and other family members were outside the home when they were attacked. They knocked my sister out. He's in intensive care. 50-year-old woman was taken to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. 18-year-old man was arrested at the scene but released. I'm told that this 18-year-old man, it was his home originally where the fireworks was heard and where these youths came from. Up to 8 people may have been involved in the fight, but so far it's only Mr. Clark's family who've been arrested because they were charged with a fray after going to this 18-year-old who was arrested and later released. Each will report at the Ringwood Magistrates Court on May 25. So, yeah, no other youths have been questioned, arrested, or charged. These youths allegedly came from this 18-year-old man's home in Moorabuck, and they came to Mr. Clark's property. So there's a lot, as you can see there, we're not getting the full picture here. So yes, they've been charged with a fray because they went to this 18-year-old man's home and then something broke out. And so yes, the only people who've been charged are the victim, the grandfather's, the victim of the bashing, the grandfather who's about to die. His family have been charged for an affray. So yes, straight back to reality after Christmas. Now that's what's happening in Melbourne. In the state of New South Wales, they're still dealing with the bushfires that have hit the state, which we have been told for the past month are all due to climate change. And of course, Scott Morrison was criticised for taking a scheduled vacation to Hawaii with his wife and daughters. He came back a day early because apparently prime ministers, they have this magical fairy dust, which if they come back to Australia, they can sprinkle over bushfires to make them go out. And of course, they're saying that it's Scott Morrison's inaction on climate change that are the cause of the bushfires. So, and of course, the implication is that if Bill Shorten had been elected Prime Minister at the May federal election, that he would have been miraculously be able to implement climate policies that would have reduced the temperatures in New South Wales this summer and averted this disaster. Yeah, as if. I saw some stupid things saying that Australians voted to protect franking credits rather than the climate. Yeah, because Bill Shorten, he would have cured it by now. And remember, of course, there were the protests outside Kirribilli House rather than fight the bushfires themselves. These climate activists decided that holding up signs outside the Prime Minister's Sydney residence would be the best way to... I keep getting told people have I said that you're always confused whether this is live or not as a joke. No, this is actual live now. I'm reading your comments in real time here, which obviously proves that it's live. I don't know why YouTube is saying this is a premiere. But of course, we know that there's lots of YouTube tricks. Why do you think I put the entropy link in again? I'll put the entropy link in again. So ask me a question over on entropy, or of course, better yet, send a super chat over, and I'll answer it in real time. So if you can't get that through, people in the chat, that this is actually live now. Oh, God. I love you guys, but seriously, like, you so like to mess with me all the time. Anyway. Yeah, so Scott Morrison's back now. And of course, we've had volunteer rural fire fighters since, well, the dawn of Australia. But now... in this fire season, there's now demands for monetary compensation of volunteer firefighters when then they're not volunteer firefighters anymore. They're professional firefighters if they're being paid for it. And then if you start paying some volunteers, then there'll be demands to pay all volunteers now. And of course, all of this is being basically fueled by Twitter on the it wasn't last Sunday show, it was the Friday night show. I basically talked about how the leftist activists who are still triggered by the election result are spamming social media saying Scott Morrison, not my Prime Minister, Lib Spill, Morrison, fires. They basically think they can bring down the downfall of the Australian government. They've got petitions on change.org, which of course is run by Sally Rugg, who is a former Get Up campaign director for same-sex marriage, probably Australia's most famous lesbian. FAP has sent through $3. Are you seeing the entropy messages? Yes, I am, and I just saw that one. Thank you for the super chat. It is, of course, the end of the month. Entropy sends us the virtual check in the mail at the beginning of each month. So if you send the show a super chat tonight, I'll get it in a few days' time. So it's probably the best time to financially contribute. I'm not sure Entropy should sell gift vouchers. I think Christmas time, that'd be a good thing. Anyway, so this is what ScoMo has introduced to try and placate the Twitter mob. Public servants given extra leave to fight bushfires. Moves to address calls to do more to support exhausted volunteer firefighters. Commonwealth public servants who volunteer with state rural fire services will get 4 extra weeks of paid leave on the front line on top of their regular annual and sick leave payments. Ms. Morrison said he expected businesses to follow the Commonwealth League. So, all those woke corporations, that are always going on about LGBT equality or climate change, if you're not giving your employees who are volunteer firefighters some extra time off to fight the bushfires, then we pretty much know how hollow your words are. And this is on Sky News Australia. PM criticised for negotiating compensation deal for volunteer firefighters because it only covers $6,000 in compensation. Only covers New South Wales, which of course that's been the state that's been on fire for the past month. So of course it's only going to be in New South Wales for the time being. Albo wants it to be a nationwide nation. Let's see. This is the direct quote from Alba. I don't understand why the Prime Minister is just negotiating with the New South Wales Premier rather than convening COAG and getting an approach across the nation. Well, the thing is that Scott Morrison, he can't convene COAG because Anastasia Palaszczuk, the Premier of Queensland, where there's been fires also, she's on a cruise at the moment. She's not in the state. And of course, none of the lefty Twitter outrage people have criticised her. They've said, it was a scheduled holiday advertised in the government gazette. So it was all planned out in advance. What is that? But of course, bushfires aren't planned out in advance. And the main issue is that Scott Morrison's office, they didn't fully inform the public. That's their clutching at straws reason why they're allowed to be angry at ScoMo, but not at Anastasia Palaszczuk. They always have these twisted logic about why a leftist politician's actions are justified, even though it's the same thing they've condemned a conservative politician for. Entropy does work. I'm not listening to any more complaints because I've informed you all of them all. So just, if you don't think this is live or you can't get Entropy working, just enjoy the show. Seriously. Now, tomorrow in Victoria, I'll just get a real-time update on what the weather is going to be in. So it's currently 24 in Melbourne. It's been quite hot today. It's projected to be 42 in Melbourne tomorrow. And yes, this is what The Guardian has said. Victorian bushfires, thousands told to evacuate vast East Gippsland fire threat zone. Visitors and residents told to get out of an area half the size of Belgium immediately in the face of historic fire threat on Monday, simply because it's going to be a hot day. And then the sensational reporting there from The Guardian is to basically imply that this is caused by climate change. Like, we've never had 42, 43 degree days before. I mean, we survived the last 43 degree day just a week and a half ago, to my knowledge, and there have been bits of real news slipping through that roughly 85 to 87% of the fires this summer have been lit by humans, and there's so many firebugs who are being arrested and charged, including a Rural Fire Service volunteer back in December. So when they're talking about man-made climate disasters, yes, it's obviously smoke is in the climate caused by man lighting fires. And the whole reason why I think that we have more arsonists these days is basically because the mainstream media, they pump up the high fire danger day. It's like, it's going to be so hot tomorrow, it's a total fire ban day. Don't light a fire because if you do, it'll just spread like that. Basically, it's basically a reading between the lines. It's basically a communication to firebugs. They're going to see that and think, oh, this is the best day to start a fire to cause maximum damage. And I've said it before, it's worth saying again, that basically arsonists, firebugs, they're basically Australia's mass shooters. And of course, in the United States, the mainstream media glorifies and politicizes mass shootings. They're doing the same thing with fire season in Australia. And of course, summer TV in Australia is just wall-to-wall fire coverage. So certainly the media hyping up of extreme fire danger, pardon the pun, pours fuel on the fire. But I certainly hope that tomorrow, although it'll be very hot, we'll get through the day with no major outbreaks. But it certainly doesn't help the mainstream media constantly hyping up that there's going to be extreme fire danger, because as I've just said, it's to firebugs, it gives them a certain level of invitation. And because of the bushfire danger, they've had to cancel the Falls Festival, which is a music festival. It's an annual Victorian music festival. I noticed that in a lot of comments underneath this report here, they've said that this cancellation will probably save a few lives because, of course, music festivals are known for attendees taking ecstasy or MDMA or other recreational drugs. So, which is, well, that's a whole... having said that, that's opening up a whole other can of worms. Me personally, I can think of nothing worse than going to a music festival, listening to some no-name musician blast out music in their heat for 4 days. Really, it's got no appeal to me at all. I'll just put the entropy link in again. I have got a question here from... I don't think their questions are Artnik76. I do know that I will say that it has been drawn my attention that your Facebook account has been nuked, because I got a message from you a couple of about a week ago, and it now says that this message is no longer visible due to it being marked as abusive or spam. And it's worth also mentioning another recent scalp of the Facebook purge was Blair Cottrell's lawyer, John Bolton, during his appeal trial over the racial and religious tolerance appeal. John Bolton, his Facebook was disabled just as the judgment were handed down. And I read his Gab last night. He's on Gab now. And he said that it was after he shared the Unshackled's report on the verdict, which upheld the Blair's fine and conviction, but John forgot that he couldn't mention Blair Cottrell by name, even though Blair is his client. Yeah, so at Nick's76, I assume that you're on Gab. Please put in, even though it's not a question, please put the link to your Gab into the question thing, even though it's not going to be a question. I will read it out. All right, so where are we now? Well, oh, yes. How could we? Yes. The biggest fake news whopper for 2019, of course, goes to Waleed Ali of the project because, well, he shouldn't just take sole responsibility. It's also the whole team at the project. I think Peter Hillier's on holiday. So is Carrie Bickmore. Don't know about Lisa Wilkinson, but Waleed, he worked right up until Christmas. I'm not sure if he does celebrate Christmas, given that, well, obviously he and his wife Susan Carland are practicing Muslims. But yeah, the project, they played a clip of Scott Morrison visiting Jackie, a Rural Fire Service volunteer, and she said, that he was introduced by, I believe it was the local member there, Andrew G. And Jackie said, he's not my Prime Minister, and explained that she's a British citizen. So obviously Scott Morrison is not her Prime Minister. Boris Johnson is. But the project, they played this to claim that Scott Morrison was humiliated by Jackie. And basically the Twitter people were saying that Jackie was a hero for saying to Scott Morrison's face that he's not my Prime Minister. Which, of course, spare a thought for Jackie. I mean, she's busy out there. I'm not sure if she's fighting the fires herself, but certainly assisting people fighting the fires, and yet she's dragged into the political shitstorm over it. And so because basically the full clip exchange was published online, where you can see the conversation goes for a minute longer, and Scott Morrison says, we should get Andrew G to help you become Australian citizen so I can be your Prime Minister, which was a good thing to come off. Probably Jackie didn't even know what the phrase not my Prime Minister meant. Anyway, let's see Weasel Waleed apologise for his whopper and the justification for it here. Have I got it here? Oh, yeah, I have got it here.
Now, we need to make a correction in relation to that clip. It turns out that there was a longer exchange between Jackie and the Ben Shapiro, where she explained that she was in fact a UK citizen and that's why ScoMo was not her PM quote. The problem for us is that significant parts of that were inaudible, so we couldn't actually deduce what was in
I could hear it.
We
Everyone else, could you hear it?
Today. Jackie wants to be crystal clear. The comment was meant to be lighthearted. She has no issue with the PM. So this was clearly not a deliberate mistake on our part. It was, however, a mistake nonetheless. We think it's important to own up to your mistakes and come clean about these things, and so we take full responsibility for it, and we hope that clears it up.
All right, time for a break now. See you on the other side.
Coming up, should fireworks be ditched from our New Year's Eve celebration?
See, Waleed, he was owning up to a mistake, apologised, clear it up, and that's the end of the matter. So there we go, case closed. Move on. Nothing to see here. That's basically the gist of it there. So yeah, that was absolute shocker. But that's the thing in 2019, you can't get away with that selective editing like that, because people can easily dig up the full clip that people try to take out of context. Or of course, there was a case of ABC News in the America claiming that that footage of a totally unrelated war was the Turkish invasion of the Syrian Kurds. So there you go. All right, what's next on the list here? Oh yes, here's at Nick 76 here. I am at ANIRTAK76 on Gab, Cat A Clayton, but my last message was just XR socialist alternative stuff. Lucas picked it up on Twitter. Anyway, I think he's talking about Lucas Roses. I'll need more context for that, but thank you for that, Kat. And I'll put the entropy link in again. Yeah, so the fake news from this live chat tonight is that this is not live and you can't access entropy. So... Alright, what have we got next? Oh yes, I didn't get to comment about this during my last News Wrap show. Of course, down in West Palm Beach, Florida, was the Groyper Leadership Summit, which was held at the same time as the Turning Point USA Student Action Summit, and. So the Groyper Leadership Summit went for a few hours, but Nick Fuentes' big thing is that he wants to debate Charlie Kirk, Ben Shapiro, all the conservative cuck-conservatives who've slandered him over the past few months, and he tried to get into the Turning Point SAS Summit, as it will be referred to from here on here. I'm still reading your complaints here. So he tried to get in twice. The first time he tried to get into the conference, and then he tried to get into some sort of after party where I think he was arrested and given some sort of move on notice by the Florida state trooper. But he had a chance encounter with Ben Shapiro, who, of course, if you watch the Uncockables a month ago, we went through Ben Shapiro's 45-minute speech on Nick Fuentes, which he didn't mention by name, just called the alt-right 2.0, where he said you're a garbage human being, and of course, yeah, I think it was despicable, garbage. There was a whole bunch of name calling in it by Ben Shapiro, who always says facts don't care about your feelings. Yeah, so this is the chance encounter of Nick Fuentes with Ben Shapiro. This is when Ben Shapiro was on his way to the Hilton hotel with his family.
Ben, it's great to see you. Why did you give a 45-minute speech about me at Stanford, and you won't even look at my
Hey, he's with his kids.
Come on, I'm right here. Hey, let him cross, man. Let him cross. I know you're with your family, but I can't get to anywhere else. A 45-minute speech? Wow. Well, that's our free speech warrior, everybody. Champion of the battle of ideas. Hey, come on. It's his family, man. It's his family.
Now, the reaction to that from people like Megyn Kelly, Meghan McCain, and Sebastian Gorka was, how dare Nick Fuentes approach Ben Shapiro with his wife and kids, his two young children. They're going to be traumatized for life, as if that's going to be the most traumatic encounter they're likely to face in their lives. And you can't see it in that, but Nick Fuentes says that Ben Shapiro actually picked out one of his children from the stroller to look at like that, I'm with my child. And Nick Fuentes rightly pointed out that so it's only Palestinians that aren't allowed to that aren't allowed to use children as human shields, which I thought was quite on topic there. And of course, Nick Fuentes made the point that, I mean, this is a guy who always complains about anti-Semitic death threats against him and his family from trolls, and he's just walking down the street of West Palm Beach, Florida, with his, obviously he's taking his wife and kids to this very politically charged Turning Point USA Student Action Summit, and he's just walking along the street. That seems a bit foolish. And obviously Nick Fuentes is not going to harm his children. He was always a safe distance from there. Maybe if he got up in the face of Ben Shapiro, which he wouldn't do. But it's interesting how the conservatives, they then alleged conservatives then turn into folks. Oh, like, how could you? This is just you're ruining political discourse. Oh, so terrible. Yes, but the Groyper Leadership Summit, because this is probably the first big major event that the Groypers have done since they won the first round of the Groyper Wars back during Charlie Kirk's Turning Point USA Culture War Tour, and it went off without a hitch. There was no leftist infiltrators. No one's been doxxed for attending. Nick Fuentes gave a stirring address, which was broadcast on D-Live, which had more live viewers than the actual Turning Point USA YouTube live stream, which was hilarious. And I couldn't believe that. First of all, that Turning Point USA enabled the live chat, and then they enabled the live chat replay. And so you're just seeing all these Groypers trolling the live chat. And so you just fast forward throughout all the various speeches, and you just see all these Groyper trolls in there. I couldn't believe that they did that. It was insane. But yes, I'm not sure if people who watch Nick Fuentes' America First program know that his other favorite target of Turning Point USA is a guy called Benny Johnson. He's on Twitter. He used to work for BuzzFeed in the USA before he was forced out because of plagiarism. He does sort of the tech things for Turning Point USA, and he did all the intro videos for the speakers, and so they had these big stage introductions for Ted Cruz, Donald Trump Jr., Dan Crenshaw. They had like an introduction video montage, and of course the whole message that they're trying to communicate is that being a conservative is cool, we're on the winning side, which, of course, as Nick Fuentes says, America's got lots of problems with mass migration, and of course, what if the economy tanks in 2020? That's what Trump is basing a lot of his re-election on, the booming economy, but of course, a lot of that's got to do with quantitative easing, just printing more money, which Trump himself has encouraged. Obviously, it reminds me of Nixon's win in 1972, where he made sure that the printing presses of money were kept going in 72 so he could get re-elected. And then he was a lame duck after that, Nixon, and so it didn't matter if the economy tanked, he was still going to be president for another 4 years. But they boasted 5,000 people at this Student Action Summit. It was an interesting choice. They had it was the logo for Student Action Summit was a rainbow, which I thought was an interesting choice. But yes, it was a cringe fest. And I love how Charlie Kirk was on Fox News after the summit, says, yeah, it's such a great success. Oh, they all love President Trump. And of course, you can support President Trump, but not be a cultist. I mean, Nick Fuentes, he campaigned for Donald Trump in 2016, but of course he's not a cultist. He'll criticize Trump for doing the wrong thing. It was interesting that Ann Coulter was still allowed to speak at Turning Point USA. She basically talked about if you're not doing anything about immigration, then you're pretty much you're achieving nothing. Of course, Michelle Malkin, she was expelled from Conservative Inc., not from Turning Point USA, but from the Young Americas Foundation because of a speech at University of California, Los Angeles, where this was at the climax of the Groyper War, where she defended the America First students and said Conservative Inc., they've just sat back and seen the country burn for 25 years, and because she didn't disavow Nick Fuentes, she was, but she's been doing pretty all right. Michelle Malkin, like, they haven't ruined their career. I mean, she has still got lots of speaking gigs. She's still getting awards. I mean, she's still making appearances on Newsmax TV, which is a conservative internet TV network. So yeah, they've utterly failed Conservative Inc. to destroy the career of Michelle Malkin. As if you're going to destroy the career of a 25-year conservative warrior veteran. I mean, seriously. And of course, I'm not sure if you saw, if you follow Michelle Malkin on Twitter, but she posted a photo from her Christmas. I mean, she's now in her 50s, but certainly she hasn't been traumatized by being expelled from Conservative Inc. She still looks extremely attractive for a woman of her age. All right, what else have we got here? Oh, yes. Sadly, in the United States, over the Christmas period, it's also the Hanukkah period, which is the Jewish festive holiday. I'll just bring it up here. Suspects released without bail after shocking attacks on Jews. So, suspects arrested in last week's spree of 8 anti-Semitic attacks are being quickly released right back into the neighborhoods they terrorized, thanks to bail reform legislation, which doesn't even take effect until January 1. So, this is one of the accused, Tiffany Harris. She was hauled before a Brooklyn judge on 21 menacing, harassment, and attempted assault charges. FUJs, she is alleged to have shouted during the attack. Yes, I was there, she admits. Yes, I slapped them, I cursed them out, I said FUJs. Still is an open harassment and assault case. And of course, these anti-Semitic attacks in the New York, greater New York City area, and of course, everyone hasn't forgotten earlier this month the attack on a kosher deli in Jersey City, New Jersey, carried out by the Black Hebrew Israelites. So this is on there. I'm just going over to the post millennial now. This is mentioned. This is edited by Andy No, who, of course, while he was his name got into mainstream consciousness after he was assaulted by Antifa while covering the Patriot Prayer Rally in Portland, which Portland is, of course, the birthplace of Antifa, the Rose City Antifa. At the time, he was working for Quillette, but after that, he and Quillette parted ways, so now he is editing the Post-Millennial. So yes, there's 5 people were stabbed in a New York synagogue attack. So if we go down further here, one victim was stabbed at least 6 times. Perp left in a vehicle with tag number. Go down here. This is a tweet from Andy No. Reports of a stabbing attack at a synagogue in Moseley, Rockaway County, New York. The town has a large Orthodox Jewish community. Witnesses on the ground say the attacker was a black man who had a machete and fled in a silver car. Eyewitness on the ground said that there were 4 to 5 people stabbed, and there was a lot of loss of blood. So yes, it's, of course, the... If you remember the black Hebrew Israelites attack, it was all reported in the mainstream media until they learned that the perpetrators were members of the black Hebrew Israelites. And Rashida Tlaib, this was picked up by Ben Shapiro, she tweeted out sympathies with the victims. That was when she thought it was a white supremacist attack, but then when she learned they were black, she deleted it with no explanation there, which basically shows how the Antifa left. They don't care about Jews and combating anti-Semitism at all. They obviously there have been a couple of deadly white supremacist attacks on Jewish synagogues, which has been horrific, but they're the only ones the mainstream media and Antifa are eager to point out. I mean, if you're worried about the safety of Jews and the spread of anti-Semitism, it shouldn't matter who the perpetrator is, whether they're black or white. A mass murder or attempted mass murder perpetrated by hatred, that should always be condemned. So yes, it has not been a happy Hanukkah for the Jewish community in the greater New York, New Jersey area, which is sad. And this should be addressed by New York Mayor, Governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo, because remember, Bill de Blasio, the mayor, Andrew Cuomo, the governor, they were they dedicated a lot of resources to making sure that the Proud Boys were prosecuted for defending themselves against Antifa back at the end of 2018. Of course, the Proud Boys are not a racist or anti-Semitic group. So if you want to clamp down on hate in the city of New York, maybe you should look at, they haven't claimed responsibility for these latest anti-Semitic attacks, black Hebrew Israelites. But given that the previous attempted terrorist attack, the suspects were black and they were members of the black Hebrew Israelites, and of course they've only started to enter the public consciousness who the black Hebrew Israelites are, because back in January during this year, during the March for Life in Washington, the Covington kids, the reason why that he was not a real Vietnam War veteran, that Native American, I can't even remember his name, who claimed that the Covington Catholic high school boys were yelling racist slurs. The whole reason he came over is because the black Hebrew Israelites, they were yelling anti-white racist slurs at the Covington Catholic high school boys, because of course they were all white males. But of course we know that the real anti-Semitic attack of the Hanukkah season didn't come from these black suspects who were using machetes. It of course came from the mouth of Rudy Giuliani, which of course he's Trump's personal attorneys, because do you know what he said, which was considered so anti-Semitic? Rudy Giuliani's anti-Soros tirade exposes 3 uncomfortable truths. This is by Lev Golakin of CNN. Monday evening, as American Jews gathered to celebrate the second night of Hanukkah, newsbreaker of Rudy Giuliani's anti-Semitic tirade against billionaire philanthropist George Soros. Philanthropist. Yes, because this is what the most dangerous time about constant stories about anti-Semitism, how quickly the hatred is normalized. Of course, goes on to Charlottesville. Yes, and it mentions the anti-Semitism in the kosher in New Jersey, FK, but does not mention the black Hebrew Israelites, just says it's domestic terrorism. And of course, CNN believes that its viewers are too stupid to understand that. Because basically, what it is that Giuliani said that he's more of a Jew than George Soros. I mean, George Soros is only ethnically Jewish, and for those who don't know, George Soros is an Hungarian Jew, and there was a lot of evidence that points that him and his family collaborated with the Nazis that run Hungary during World War II, the Cross Arrow Party, I believe that's what they were called, just off the top of my head. Yeah, he ratted out his fellow Jews. Yes, and it goes here that if you use the term elites and globalists, that's anti-Semitism, which it of course is. It's used as a way to basically stop criticism of powerful people. Just go if there's anything worth mentioning here. The embrace of anti-Semitism posing as anti-Soros conspiracy. So if you ever condemn George Soros, you're anti-Semitic. Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy has also propagated anti-Soros theory, tweeting out a lie about Soros and other Jewish Democratic donors tend to buy elections. I doubt he would call them Jewish Democrat donors. He just mentioned Democrat donors who happen to be Jewish. Rep. Louis Gohmert, like Giuliani's accused Soros of not being truly Jewish. Well, he's not a religious Jew. I mean, because being a Jew, it's an ethnicity and a religion. Donald Trump has promoted the theory of Soros bringing migrants to America. For those who want to learn more about that, read Michelle Malkin's book, Open Borders Inc., who's funding it. Those condemn Tucker Carlson. Blah, blah, blah. Typical CNN. I'm still getting used to the screen sharing area here. I just put the entropy link in again because there are people over there. I think it's you in the chat who can't get there. It's entropy. You just it just doesn't mix for you. All right, and everyone, of course, was focused. When pedophile billionaire Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide, everyone thought it was the Clintons who suicided him, given that there's been around 54 associates of theirs who have mysteriously died over the past 30 years. But of course, the Clintons are just one of many suspects in the Jeffrey Epstein suicide. But we have someone who is trying to catch up to the Clinton body count, and that is, what do you call him now, former actor Kevin Spacey, who at the end of 2017, he was accused of sexual misconduct by multiple male alleged victims. Well, out of the four of the accusers, 3 have mysteriously died and 1 withdrew their suit against Kevin Spacey. And so Kevin Spacey, he released this interesting video on Christmas Eve, which you haven't seen it. It's a doozy.
You didn't really think I was going to miss the opportunity to wish you a Merry Christmas, did you? It's been a pretty good year, and I'm grateful to have my health back. And in light of that, I've made some changes in my life, and I'd like to invite you to join me. As we walk into 2020, I want to cast my vote for more good in this world.
Ah, yes, I know what you're thinking. Can he be serious?
I'm dead serious. And it's not that hard, trust me. The next time someone does something you don't like, you can go on the attack, but you can also hold your fire and do the unexpected. You can kill them with kindness.
Of course, the music at the end, classic. There's not much I can do about the audio, sorry, Port Film Co-op. But yes, I'll just go to this article here. I think I got it out. This is from, Dark Horizon. So third Kevin Spacey accuser dies in 2019. After, just a day after he's killed them with kindness, because just in case you didn't know, Kevin Spacey is still playing Frank Underwood from House of Cards, which was written out at the end of the fifth season. You remember that last festive season he released the Let Me Be Frank video. So Ari Ben, he committed suicide. He's a Norwegian author. He was married to Princess Martha Louise for 15 years. With this accused Spacey of groping him at under a table at the Nobel Peace Prize in 2007. Well, he's certainly won a Peace Prize now, rest in peace. Ben is the third Spacey accuser to die in the last year, following Linda Culkin, killed when hit by a car in Boston in May, and an anonymous male massage therapist who accused Spacey of sexual assault died during the court battle. His death was later found out to be attributed to cancer. Spacey has been accused of sexual assault by over a dozen people since 2017. The actor has been quiet since beyond a few short public appearances and bizarre holiday video. So yes, of course, it's not all Clinton, Epstein people who are disappearing. I mean, this suiciding and disappearing of people, it's obviously the whole Hollywood political cabal. They're experts in this, and even like his career is still ruined, Kevin Spacey. I mean, he hasn't done anything for 2 years. So sort of, what's he got to gain by making the? I mean, the accusation has already ruined his career. So what do you got? I mean, unless he's just full of vengeance and just wants them to suicide. I'll just put the entropy link in again. Notice that a few people are going over there. As the saying goes, for entropy, it's not me, it's you. You all need to figure out how to use entropy properly. I'll just see if anything's happening over on DLive. Not too much. Anyway. Alright. Oh, yes. There was a lot of outrage, not from me, about this Netflix special that was by these Brazilian comedians that made Jesus gay. So the creators suffer Molotov cocktail attack. The first temptation of Christ was Jesus sneaking back home after 40 days in the desert. He turns up with Orlando, young man he's met in the desert. So Rio de Janeiro, Brazilian of Porta de Fo, comedy troupe behind the Netflix Gay Jesus Christmas special. Their office was hit by a Molotov cocktail. 2 petrol bombs were thrown into the building, causing a fire, which was put out by one of the office's security guards, according to one report. No one's hurt in the attack, however, endangered several innocent lives and the company on the street. Comes 3 weeks after. Now, of course, this Netflix special is blasphemous, but from my point of view, it's free speech. And blasphemy is included in free speech. Sure, it may be offensive to Christians, but I mean, this we're supposed to be defenders of free speech, and of course, offense is taken, not given. I mean, you don't have to watch it. And I think it's pretty silly to cancel your Netflix subscription over that, given that there is so much other good content on Netflix. So if you're telling other groups to stop being such snowflakes, then you should as well. But it seems to me that, well, given that a lot of comedians don't want to criticize Islam because of all the obviously the Charlie Hebdo attack in France, they drew cartoons mocking the Prophet Muhammad. There was that deadly shooting on their office there. It sort of seems that some Christians, I should say, are feeling that they have to resort to Islamic-style intimidation tactics to stop people mocking them. Which I just wish that, I mean, everyone grew a spine, comedians and people of religion. People of religion, stop getting triggered and offended if someone mocks your religion, and comedians grow a spine. Stop trying to make comedy which doesn't offend anybody. So Artnick76 wants me to answer her questions. Port Film Co-op, are there any exciting new developments for 2020 in the Australian alternative media? Is that a question from Port Film Co-op, or are you asking him? Any exciting new developments in 2020? Well, Rationalised TV, it is going to become more prominent in 2020. James Fox Higgins, obviously he moved house towards the end of the year, and obviously because he's a family man, has been spending time with his wife and children. I haven't heard from him much lately, but he's don't be fooled, he is not he has not receded one bit. One thing you got to go understand about James is that he's a family man, and so it's always family first. Another question, I assume it's from Sen Slayer, Anxious Aussie. Could you ask if this is live? I was kind of answered that before. Also from Just Saying, are the black Israelites black? Yes, they are black. They have black skin. From African origin, I think 76. They are questions from the YouTube chat, boomers who can't get entropy. Yes, yes, they are all boomers, those people who are asked those questions. And Binary Gender says, have you looked into the new WikiLeaks about trying to bury an opinion that the Syrian gas attack was a hoax? Well, I think we all suspected that, and that WikiLeaks recent dump confirmed that. All right. Oh, yes. Has anyone seen the new Tourism Australia ad, which has it has Kylie Minogue singing, and also has comedian Adam Hills, who's unrecognisable now because he's got like a massive beard, but I recognise the voice. So hopefully the sound is good for this. Because I know when I download stuff and play it on Entropy, the sound's not that good, so I'll just say...
In 3, 2, 1.
This year's been tough and confusing, but progress is moving.
Well, a glacial pace.
Oh, that's Adam Hills there. He's got a grey beard.
Australia loves you, and we'll never judge you.
You just need some space.
Yes, Adam Hills has got one leg.
When you need a vent to what ails you,
Call on your friends in Australia.
a pal to rely on.
That's Charlene.
Shoulder to cry on.
In Australia.
We can turn off the news. You can kick off your shoes. We'll play backyard cricket.
Get ready to lose!
So throw in the towel. You can use one of ours.
She's not really
We
naked
speak
there,
your
Kylie.
language.
Except for the vowels.
Yes, we know you love your fish and chips and your curries.
But hey, that's no worries.
Good crops guaranteed.
Negotiating tricky trade deals is a shocker.
But look, there's a quokka, and that's what you need. A quokka is really what you need. Glorious United Kingdom. Lean on your wingmen and women. We'll clear your head.
And a sausage and bread.
We'll go to the beach.
Then tuck you in bed.
Don't bite your nails to the cuticles. And with impressive marsupials. Helping the mates is a national trait. In
just repress emotion.
But we'll put you right.
And another flag white.
Go grab your cozies.
Your cozies, your Aussies tonight. Calling all comes, keep calm, carry on in Australia.
So see you soon then, yeah?
Yep, so there you go. Now, in my opinion, this ad is not bad because we've had some shocking Tourism Australia ads over the years. But as a lot of people commented in the chat, the ad is dangerously white, and well, that's one reason why the left have already expressed their disgust at it, but also because it is too positive about Australia. If you look at the YouTube comments, not just on the Tourism Australia channel, but on other channels that have reproduced it, it's like, oh, you forgot to mention Australia's on fire. So basically, the leftist activists are basically doing their best to destroy this tourism ad by saying, don't come here, the nation is on fire. They've done this with the Great Barrier Reef as well. They said, don't come and see the reef because it's going extinct. And of course, when Professor Peter Ridd said, no, the reef is not going extinct, he was fired from James Cook University because when it comes to their climate agenda, these leftists don't care about people in the tourism industry. It's the end justifies the means for them. I just want to give you a taste of the leftist reaction here. I'll go over to... yes, so this is Jenna Price. If you don't know who she is, she created the Destroy the Joint feminist Facebook page, which is named after Alan Jones when he said about Julia Gillard, Christine Nixon and Clover Moore that these women are destroying the joint. As a longtime fan of Kylie Minogue, I adore and respect everything it does, although I prefer to be screening her partners. I find myself in the inevitable petition of fact-checking Queen Kylie's latest contribution, national culture. Also, FYI, she's really a foreigner. Well, if not a foreigner, then certainly an enthusiastic patriot. What? Just because she lives and works in Britain most of the time? Now, as far as I know, Kylie Minogue has not renounced her Australian citizenship, and she still comes to visit her sister Danny, and of course her mum and dad who live in Camberwell in Melbourne. I mean, yes, she does have a British accent now. I remember she came back to present the gold Logie in 2017, which I might be getting the years wrong because she won the gold Logie in 1987 for playing Charlene on Neighbours, and like she had such a bogan accent back there, and like she mocked how she's like sounded back in 87. And well, how she sounds now with a British accent. And of course, if anyone remembers the Comedy Company back in the 80s, I can't remember her name, but there was that. There was Kylie Mole, who coined the term bogan. Obviously, the name was Kylie Mole based on Kylie Minogue, and I think Kylie made a cameo on it where she basically uses the voice that she had back in those days. But anyway, on to Jenna Price's poo-pooing. Yes, the lyrics are puzzling, being with me. The admission the year's been tough and confusing. Obviously, this is referring to Brexit because, of course, the UK has been in paralysis due to a dysfunctional and betraying parliament, which is thankfully gotten rid of now. And now, thanks to Boris Johnson's majority in the House of Commons, they're now leaving the European Union, the United Kingdom, on January 31. And this is referencing, we have a politician in government tell us he wants government out of his life. That refers to Barnaby Joyce's Christmas message, which Yeah, Barnaby Joyce is right about that. A couple of lines further tells the Brits, "We'll never judge you." While once that we might have been the case, the procession of royal catastrophes, making case for the Republic, yeah. Quotes Peter Fitzsimons, head of the Republican movement. "Sure, we, like the Brits, is no longer the strong kinship of blood that it once was." Yeah. I mean, you've been wrong about pretty much everything, Fitzo. The timing of it, this is what's called Mate Song, is a little off. Yeah, of course, because there's bushfires as well. Kylie assures Britons that in Australia we can turn off the news. Not on your Nelly, or not even, and definitely not this summer. Yeah, thanks to people like you polluting our news. Because as Britons, we can kick off our shoes. Has she been here since our daily temperature was smashed into tiny pieces? Well, that's according to the homogenised Bureau of Meteorology statistics. There's a significant increased number of pavement street burns. Yes, and then talks about, claiming that the wildlife's dying as well. And yes, then of course, saying that, yes, it's the ad is a white fantasy from Neighbours to Shane Warne. Look, the ad is really fun and singable. Yes, it is. But it's not really what Australia is about anymore. We might clear the heads of visiting Britons, but we certainly be in clearing the airwaves, images of Sydney Harbour Bridge. Yeah, so she's basically saying that this ad is too sentimental about Australia. Of course, we can't have that. How dare Kylie do that? And then, of course, I'm not sure if anyone, I won't play it because it's 7 minutes long, the Queen's Christmas message. If anyone saw it, she spoke about the 75th anniversary of the D-Day commemorations and how wonderful it was that the Allies, the English and the Germans were all able to come together, old enemies, now friends. That's what I hope for this world. And she talked about the challenges of her generation growing up, and she talks about it's great to see young people involved in activism these days about environment and climate, and a lot of people interpreted that as the Queen's endorsement of Greta Thunberg's climate activism, because Greta, she is now an expert on bushfires now, because even though she's never been to Australia, she was able to tell that the bushfires were caused by climate change from, I don't know, maybe some privileged place in Europe. I don't know where she's at the moment. But yes, of course, the royal family, they've always been big on climate change, but this is the first time the Queen's explicitly said this. We know that Charles, Charles, he's been a very vocal climate change activist for many years, as is his son, Prince Harry, as well. I know that the Queen's comments on the environment and climate change will spur on the Larouchians, who believe that the royal family are the leaders of the climate change conspiracy. No, it's a royal family. They don't have that much influence and power. And she, of course, said, the Queen, that it's been a bumpy year. She might have been talking about her family or Brexit. And everyone noticed that because she had photos of Charles and Camilla. She had a photo of her husband, Prince Philip, who just got discharged from hospital on Christmas Day. And she had a photo of her father, King George, and also of Prince William and his wife, Princess Kate, and their children. Obviously, Prince George, Charlotte, and Edward. But there was no picture of her favourite son, Prince Andrew, due to it being in the spotlight more so than previous years. His relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, and also Harvey Weinstein. And there was no photo of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. They were not there as well. Maybe she just wanted photos of heirs to the throne. But yes, so that was a very subtle Christmas message from the Queen. All right, it's wrapping up to around about 9:30 p.m. Melbourne time. I'll keep the show to an hour and a half. It does seem to have worked starting a bit later. More of you have tuned in the normal time at 7, which is pleasing. Paul from Cover says, Truth, this isn't live. This was about last year's Queen's message. Good one. But yes, as I said at the beginning of this show, this is the final WilmsFront for the year and the decade. The show, of course, started in September. We've already clicked over to 30 episodes. I, on this program, have just summarised the news that's happened over the Christmas period. On the Uncuckables, there will be a special New Year's Eve live stream, which will start at 8:30 p.m. on the Uncuckables YouTube channel and its D-Live channel. So far confirmed for the night are myself, David Hiscock of XYZ, and Dewey DeBoer of Right Minds NZ. So we'll only be going, we plan to only go until 10 p.m. Melbourne time, but we will get to say Happy New Year because when it is 10 p.m. Melbourne time, that means it's 12 a.m. in Auckland, and we'll have Dewey on the show, and so of course we'll get to say Happy New Year in New Zealand time. So that will be a year and decade in review and predicting what's going to happen in the 20s as well. I'll put the entropy link in the live chat again. So if you want to send a super chat, last chance for the month. Of course, if you want to make a more regular financial contribution to this program, and of course, The Unshackled, you can take out a web membership, theunshackled.net/membership, or donate at theunshackled.net/donate. We're, of course, on Patreon, PayPal, and Subscribestar. And remember, because it is the end of the month, if you pledge or take out a subscription now, we get it immediately at the beginning of the month. So it's money in our pocket right at the beginning of the new year, because of course we want to take the Unshackled and WilmsFront and the Australian alt media scene even further in 2020. It's been a big year, 2019. We've had tremendous growth, and there's also been many attempts to suffocate us, but we're still standing. So thank you to everyone who's watched this show since it's began, and who also watched my previous show, The Unshackled Waves, earlier in the year, and those who follow the rest of The Unshackled's work, our news online, which has been a bit light lately. There is, of course, Detonation with my colleague Steele Archer. He did a few Christmas episodes, but he's on another break now, but there's plenty of transhumanism to consume over the festive season. I'll have to check if we've got reports from Tiger Mountain coming out with Richard Wollstonecroft. XYZ Live, I do know that we'll be returning on Monday, 9 p.m. on the Maddie Rose Live YouTube channel, which is, tomorrow night. And then, of course, as I said, the Uncockables Tuesday evening. There'll be no Dear Beltran live stream this Wednesday, no WilmsFront. I am going to be taking it a bit light on the episodes over summer myself. So WilmsFront will now only be once a week for the month of January. It'll be on Friday, 7 p.m. Melbourne time, of course, on the Tim Wilms YouTube channel, and of course, Tim Wilms D-Live channel. You, of course, follow me on social media. I don't do much posting on Facebook and Twitter, but I am getting more active on gab.com/Tim Wilms, and also my Telegram channel, which is t.me/WilmsFront. And of course, I'm on minds.com/Tim Wilms, but I don't really post much there. And of course, on timwilms.com, you can also check out the podcast version of the show. I'm on Apple, Spotify, TuneIn Radio, and what's the other one? Stitcher, yes. As you can tell, I'm getting a bit rusty at this time of the show, this time of the year. So Happy New Year, in case I don't see many of you on Tuesday evening. It's the end of a decade and the dawn of a new one. So we are certainly living in exciting times. That has been present for this decade as well. 10 years ago, remember that Barack Obama was the president of the United States, and the Tea Party was the biggest thing on the right. And Kevin Rudd was still our Prime Minister in Australia. David Cameron had just been elected Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, so time has certainly changed. I don't think I've got any more other conclusions there. The jokes are still going about the pre-recorded show. Well, make sure you tune in to the Dusty Bogan and Dia Beltran's pre-recorded live streams from their meetup in Queensland. So I noticed that Dia just did a pre-recorded live over on her channel. So check that out. And yes, we'll be back with more pre-recorded shows in the next week. Good night, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in to WilmsFront. Visit timwilms.com or Rational Rise TV to view the archive of episodes. And keep visiting theunshackle.net to view all our shows. And to keep up with the latest real news and analysis.